and feels so relaxing to be back on an appropriate level of the dungeon. That's the little secret that they don't tell you about getting shafted, is as scary as it might be and as brutal as your new location might become. At the end of the day, if you survive and get out of there in one piece, you're sitting pretty and feeling great. It's like when you go for the early S branch clears and then finish off the rest of the dungeon floors. There's something truly invigorating and beautiful about just hopping and skipping your way across the whole dungeon, not a care in the world. But we definitely have to leave this one alone. We'll probably find a different stairwell where we're not being poked constantly from a warrior by a warrior from afar, I should say. We see that another sacrifice has been offered here. So I was hoping to finish off the Wraith, and there we go. And then we can take another peek here. Gain the ability to sacrifice love, sacrifice stealth, or sacrificed health. And the health sacrifice comes in a few different variations. I believe you can lose 10% of your maximum health. You can lose 5 armor class, or you can lose 5 evasion. So here we'd be losing 5 armor class, which would be absolutely brutal in the early game here. Like later on, if we had like a plus 12 gold dragon armor, not having to worry about anything as we go throughout the dungeon, maybe I'd be able to sacrifice 5 armor class. But right now, that's pretty much half of our defensive capabilities just out the window. And that's even considering that we've already sacrificed our evasion. So it's not looking like much survivability if we take that route. Out of the 3 of these, I'm most likely to sacrifice stealth. We've trained a little bit of it, which means that we actually get a tiny bit of extra piety back when we do sacrifice it. And I believe that taking this essentially makes it guaranteed that any monster in our sightline will wake up and will notice us. Which, I mean, is probably going to be happening anyway unless we actually train this department a bit. And it does bring us up to 2 pips of piety. What's love? So if we sacrifice love, we completely lose the ability to have any kind of comrades. Summoning things in will either not work, or in occasions where it does work, you'll actually summon in hostile minions. So it can definitely be a bit rough. If you have a really strong character, it's not going to phase you too much. But I'm a pretty big fan of Scrolls of Summoning, of Box of Beasts, so I don't think we'll be sacrificing any love today, especially as a polearm user when we're hoping to bring a minion in to tank for us as we just poke over their head. So makes it pretty straightforward. Let's sacrifice stealth, shall we? Immediately pop that, and beautiful. By reaching the next level of piety here, we gain a stronger aura of power. So now instead of just causing our enemies to misdirect their hits onto themselves or allies on a % chance, we also have a chance to inflict them with various amounts or various degrees of hexes. I think that we can give them, like Corona, we can paralyze, slow, kind of all the usual bag of tricks when it comes to hex effects. Fortunately, all negative ones, though. We don't have to worry about some Zom's chess piece style action where we might accidentally haste somebody at an inopportune moment. Where did you walk, friend? Ah, there we go. They're just to our right. Sometimes you have to go groping around the dark. Just swing your spear blindly to try and find those wizards. Completely safe. Don't worry, I do this all the time. Phantom Mirror becomes clone boss, exactly. You know, one of our favorite unique killing tools becomes a huge detriment when you make a love sacrifice for sure. Oh, 2-headed ogre. Jeez Louise. Don't love that. Well, let's head back to this stairwell for now. And maybe take a quick look at our inventory. What do we have to deal with them? We could try to Tropa the 2-headed ogre, which helps, but doesn't necessarily keep us safe. Paralysis probably doesn't have a great chance of working. Nets? I think ogres are small enough or at least they're not too large, that nets still work on them. Though could definitely be wrong about that one. Have to deal with it when we get there. Ooh, but we do find our lair entrance. That's very nice. Maybe we won't have to deal with them and we can just kick that can down the road and instead focus on current problems instead. Wouldn't that be nice? Oh, my wyvern friend. I think occasionally here we should be taking slightly more advantage of our ignition or blood ignition trait. By which I just mean to say that we should probably try and walk away from enemies so that they're forced to either follow us through the flame clouds or wait behind it and get stuck, where we can then safely poke them from afar using our lovely spicy skewer. So we can try and keep that in mind moving forward. Also, instead of just throwing this, we should have taken a look first. 3% chance of blinding. Not great. Maybe not my best plan. We could try a net. 75% chance to hit you. That's not too bad. Oh crap, you broke out of it real fast though. Makes sense, you're very strong and very huge, but just try and stack some more poison before they manage to do so. And beautiful. Oh, and that's where that D scroll went. Silly imps. And there we go. We've finished exploring the dungeon here. We might head into our lair immediately. Shouldn't be too bad of a plan to also keep exploring our dungeon a bit. We're just in D9, of course. Oh, Manual of Fighting as well. What? Why were these Crimson Imps all carrying my crap? You sons of guns. But while we decide where we want to go here, let's definitely take this as an opportunity to read a bunch of ID scrolls. Find ourselves some solutions to the future. We did manage to pick up, or at least ID heal wounds. I'm guessing we saw a monster drink a potion. That's usually the occurrence when you find randomly identified potions suddenly appearing in your inventory. So with that in mind, we can immediately just go through all of our scrolls here. Try and get some sweet stuff moving forward. Fear would be really nice to identify right away. And blinking, of course. Immolation and vulnerability, not quite so much, but it is what it is. And let's go with Zumab Samiwa. Enchant Armor. Unfortunately, also not quite what we were hoping for. Drop that. We can probably drop Amnesia Scrolls for the time being, free up a little bit of inventory space. And I'm going to leave this lair entrance for a moment longer. I think I wouldn't mind gaining a bit more experience before we come up against cane toads and hydras. At least taking a peek down here. I mean, yaks almost made the list as well of things that I wasn't quite prepared to deal with. Turns out we get a nice little testing course down here, so that's always a nice opportunity. And finally, we pick up a shield. Had a little bit of shield training since the very start. Unable to use it completely. We also have not been paying attention to our skills at all, which is not a great look. So let's bring fighting up to 12 with the extra aptitude from the manual. That should happen lickety-split here. And then in terms of other skills to start bringing up, I think we will start training our evocations. We have a decent number of evocable things in our inventory now, and we know that we have that gadget shop a couple floors up that we can return to. That should be looking pretty fantastic. Demonologist, let's definitely focus down the summoner here. As scary as it is to immediately just take a bunch of hits from all other quarters, all we need to do is take out this one little tiny lizard man. There we go. Let's definitely make you come to us. Fantastic. We're seeing our skills go shooting up now that we're actually properly training stuff, instead of just kind of shooting the breeze and completely forgetting about it. So we reach level 11 here. We gain a new mutation slot. We feel less encumbered by our armor. So I think this is sturdy bones or something like that. And it means that the encumbrance rating here goes down an appreciable amount. It's definitely an interesting one. Maybe not what we were hoping for on this character. Generally, that's really nice on something like a spellcaster, where you're really hoping to, oh my gosh, missing 276% chances, not great. But usually nice on a spellcaster, allows you to wear some heavier armor and still sling out some of your spells. But still can't complain too much. It'll mean that we don't need to have a super high strength to switch over to an early gold dragon scales or something. Well, we don't need armor or dodge now, just fighting 27. That's the positive way to think of it. Positive silver line spin on the whole ordeal here. But I'm going to retreat from these yaks for now. Definitely had that fight going a little bit south. It's funny, even without the ability to train dodging whatsoever, thanks to the amulet of the acrobat, we go up pretty high in terms of evasion when we are just running away from our problems. So that's nice. Definitely not bad at all. Yes, being less encumbered by armor does mean that we potentially don't have to train quite as much as the armor skill. Still could be nice to do so for the armor class bonus itself, of course, but something to keep in mind for sure. And in terms of just forsaking most of the defensive skills for fighting, normally kind of dangerous, not too bad on this run. With that early manual of fighting, we're hopefully sitting at a much greater hit point total than we otherwise would normally be at this stage. You know, we see that this fight already getting a bit rough, so maybe I'm taking our fighting ability for granted just a wee bit. I mean, don't get me wrong, super early Manticore, scary in its own right. So maybe we should just be slightly more thoughtful in how we progress through these fights. Same with the troll. Funny how I can be actively talking about the mistakes that we've made and attempting to avoid them in the future and still do the exact same thing. Takes a special kind of someone to have that level of stupidity, I guess. But let's definitely make you step into the fire. Melee zombie, very tough to take down. In fact, in general, we're seeing that this floor is quite scary. Oh my gosh, 8-headed Hydra, goodbye. As I was saying, this floor is quite scary. So for the time being, let's just say no, and let's head to Lair instead, shall we? Somewhere a bit more our speed. I'm also going to do a quick check. Our current weapon delay is 0.5, so definitely nice. We don't have full training on our shield, but if we put this on at our current level, hey, we're still attacking at 0.7, so that's pretty solid. Happily use that extra little bit of defensive capabilities as we run into a gauntlet on this floor. So I'm going to immediately read magic mapping because I'd very much enjoy making it to this gauntlet. It's kind of far away. We run into one too many 6-headed Hydras on the trip. Gonna be sketchy, but holy cow. Condenser vein? Already? Really? That's incredible. Well, I'll take that. Nothing too scary yet. Some good old frogs I can deal with. And here's where they're all hiding. Scratch everything I said. I'm scared. I'm terrified. Okay, we got some lucky flame clouds. And yeah, that last gauntlet was super easy. Oh, Complete Breeze was not even concerned at all, as we were being absolutely throttled and destroyed by Force Lances being sent our direction. But there's no way we could have the same problem twice, right? What are the odds? So with that in mind, let's immediately just sprint right there with not a single care in the world. Thunder's beating of a drum, please don't close. I'm not quite ready yet. Fantastic. Water Moccasin, still slightly scary there, but fortunately poison resistance at least helps out. And now, before we take the plunge, let's clear out some inventory space. This robe, I guess, could have just been trashed in there as well. Double rings of willpower seem kind of unnecessary, don't they? But let's maybe play it safe. Let's drop the plate armor. How many more spaces do I want? Swamp Dragons is the other thing I'm thinking of dropping, because if we have something that's poisonous in the same room or on the same creature as a willpower check, then we may want to switch over to Swamp Dragon scales in both these willpower rings. But let's see, Wand of Digging is not going to be useful at all where we're going, and I guess Scrolls of Teleport the same. We just have to remember to pick those up on our way out, and let's hop in. Also forgot that we should have just headed in for healing, not risked missing out on the opportunity to go through the gate. Whoops. Let's do a quick scan. Definitely looks like a bit of a tricky middle section once more. Similar to what we've seen before. In fact, ooh, those last rooms are all kind of scary. So okie dokie, we have Mutation Chamber, not great. The Coxic that's early on, and these Chaos Spawns. I don't think so. Middle one, definitely completely doable with her resistance to poison. A few hornets shouldn't be too bad. This top one is interesting for sure, depending on where that Moth of Wrath is, because Berserk Wolves are going to be an absolute nightmare to deal with. And this center one, I'm definitely concerned about. Fortunately, it's poison, which we do have an answer for. So there is that. But 2 demons this stage in the game? Oof, rough stuff. Fortunately, there's a nice amulet available there. And then if we move forward to the end, where do we like to go? We don't have any flame resistance, so this seems like a nightmare waiting to happen. Ugly things aren't too bad. Could get the resistance or the willpower needed to check against this massive eyes. What are you called? Great Orb of Eyes, of course. All I could think of was Ball of Eyes, and it seemed wrong. And it was, but just barely so. But definitely doable. Unfortunately, not looking like a lot to grab. I guess another artifact amulet. Maybe if this one's absolute garbage, we could go that way. Because last but not least, this interests me. It's going to be sketchy to fight through. These are both very scary. Very, very scary. Both polearm users, and unfortunately not vulnerable to our poison, but we get some nice shoes out of it. So that could be good. I guess let's just start off somewhere nice and simple, and we can move forward from there. And I think that will be the center Hornets area, just making sure I'm not missing out any items. Looks like just some scrolls and whatnot. Sure, let's go nuts. Let's do this. Hello friends, if you'd like to come with me back to a little one wide, fantastic. Ooh, Rue believes we're ready to make a new sacrifice. What timing? Let's take a look at that before we move on. We can sacrifice Purity again, losing 2 points of strength. We can also sacrifice Arcana. We lose our ability to cast Poison, Transmutation, and Translocation spells. So some of the few spells that we might actually be interested in as a casual spellcaster, translocations more specifically, might be rough. Or there's Sacrifice Essence, so the slightly harder time casting spells. To make this call, I want to check out the Arcana and the Essence Sacrifice and see the magnitude. Because the Arcana one, let's see. If you make this sacrifice, your powers granted by Rue will become stronger to do... no, there we go. This is what I'm looking for. This is a significant sacrifice. So that seems nice. I like that. Significant sacrifice that doesn't actually hurt our back end too much. Versus a modest sacrifice. So it makes sense. Definitely is the trade-off we expected. But I think it's pretty straightforward for us. I'm going to sacrifice Arcana. Get up to 3 pips of piety, which is nice. And we'll keep heading up there. Beautiful. Can now heal our body and restore our magic. Okay, so we gain draw out power. Can check out the description right away here, but yeah, I believe the draw out power heals us, gives us back magic, and also might give us statistical advantages in exchange for some max HP drain and exhaustion, so we can't use it too often. Oops. Let's take a peek. Taps into your inner power to restore health and magic, as well as freeing your body and mind from external constraints. Oh, that's what it was that I was forgetting. You don't gain stats. You gain the ability to escape any kind of constriction event. I guess constriction is one of the keywords here, so maybe I should use a better generalized term. But definitely a nice way to have a pseudo clarity effect, as well as be able to break out of things like nets, which is awesome. So we'll probably not be using it too often. Try and keep it in reserve and available for when we really need it. But that will be fantastic. And now comes the tricky part. Very much was not looking forward to this. Let's take another look. Poisonous Cloud definitely wouldn't be too bad. Basically heal plus free action. Yeah, seems pretty useful and pretty awesome for the future here. I know Apocalypse is the main Rue skill that everyone talks about, or Rue ability, I should say, but I could see Draw Power being exceptionally amazing in very specific circumstances. Especially getting rid of Constriction. We've seen how much of a nightmare that can be in Snake, and how many promising characters have been brought down low. Might be nice to have a little bit of an in-pocket reply. Okay, I cannot poke you through the grate. Good to know. I was pretty sure that's how it worked, but I was hoping against hope that maybe, just maybe, I could figure something out. But let's back up. We managed to poison you a little bit. Unfortunately, took a lot of damage just in those final couple turns. So you could still launch at us. The poison arrow, I think, maxes out at 30 damage with our resistances. Not great with 38 health. But you're almost dead at the very least, so there is that. Look at our evocables as hoping for an Ice Blast. If we survive this, we're going to have to go back up to that gadget store and make some changes with our life. But I think I will. Just try and acid you right away. Okay, we do get poisoned. Interesting. We have the curing to counter it. How hard do you hit? 8 plus 15 is 23. So that's not too bad. We can potentially deal with you even in less than ideal circumstances. So let's switch over to lightning, hopefully kill the green death. Beautiful. Do I want to curing out? Save this for the future. It's gonna be closer than I would like. Let's do it. Just make sure that we're not taking too much damage on the side, especially since we need to finish this fight in relatively short order here. Let's poison you up. In fact, let's poison you up and then just walk away. Beautiful. That definitely works for me. Fantastic. So one of the scarier chambers here that I was very much worried about, we managed to get through. And ooh, would you look at that amulet. The amulet Oricosizi. Reflection, one of my favorite brands, as well as poison resistance and strength +3. So don't mind if I do. I think we'll pop that buddy on right away, get some extra shielding score, which is always fantastic. Also means we can immediately switch off the poison resistance ring for a willpower. Don't have to worry about forgetting that and needing to switch into it in the future. And now, I don't think I really need to go down this way. I'm pretty happy with this amulet. It just sucks because this is also the most manageable of the 3 finals here. This one's going to be very scary. There's no real escape options. Poison isn't going to do much. For Reaper specifically, 40 damage plus a scythe. Ouch. That's going to kill me in just a few turns if we get unlucky. And of course the Hellwing swooping around, unfortunately impossible for us to run away from. We used a bunch of evocables just to get through that first fight. So the best loot-wise is probably to go bottom path, but I think I may be slightly too scared. The only alternative here is to try and get sneaky with it. So if we take a look, you go normal speed. You fly, so you're slightly faster than us, I believe. We could pop in here, try and lead them up to this door, pop through here, grab the boots, leave. That's something. Likely they're just going to be rampage boots, +0 rampage boots that are going to be largely useless to us, potentially even gain us killed in the future, since I'm always so horrible at using the rampage properly. I guess another artifact amulet. Can't complain too much, especially if it gives us some much needed resistances. Probably better than some boots. Even boots of running, which I actually don't think exist in this version anymore. When did boots of running get removed from the game again? I feel like it was before this edition. Okay, so let's check. Great Orb of Eyes. Still has a decent chance of affecting us if we put on both willpower rings. That's not too bad. Let's try this one out. Still working with a decent number of elemental hits. Yeah, these ugly things are not kidding around. Don't really want to draw out power, but unfortunately, that 36 cold damage is absolutely brutal to get hit by. Maybe should have resorted to our lightning rod or acid wand a little bit earlier in this fight. Get some overall damage across the board here. Technically, can kill us in one hit, which is not great. Definitely not our best look, especially since these things cover ground more quickly than we do. We can't exactly run away from this fight. So let's see, we could go for the heal. If heal lets us live long enough to potentially haste, we can run away. I've kind of wanted to save some of these for the Minotaur themselves, because I think that that's going to be a tricky fight. I guess alternatively, Curari Dart kind of does the trick as long as we can survive. So let's heal. Throwing Net has a 63% chance to hit. The Curari Dart, on the other hand, 64%. Okay, not too different from one another. Right, we could draw power. I was kind of hoping to use this against the Minotaur. Or at least save it as a potential panic button against the Minotaur. Would have probably been smart to do so now, at least get a bit of an idea over how much it heals. In fact, we're at 49 health. Let's try it out. So they hit us as well. Can't tell exactly how much damage they did, but I'm guessing that worked out relatively well. Interesting. So let's bring out the throwing net. Hit you once more. In fact, I should keep poking you with some poison here. Jeez Louise. Chances of paralyzing you, actually not too bad, so we'll switch over to that to finish the job here. I finally made them bleed and lit them on fire. Oh my gosh. Feels like I've waited my whole life for that moment. How much damage do you hit with? 20. Okay, you're actually slightly more worrisome than I initially was suspecting. Oh, you've gone into a dead end. Whoops. But there we go. We can see the drain isn't too bad there. We're already back up to full after killing those. So we might actually be able to use that with a decent frequency here. And it is fully available again for the Minotaur themselves. Let's check this out. The amulet Gyuk. Acrobat, 2 pips of RF. Now that's definitely nice. Fire resistance is something we're oftentimes lacking. And in fact, this means we can just drop our amulet of the acrobats. We now just have the same but better. That's pretty nice. What the heck? Minotaur, you're not supposed to immediately see us. You son of a gun. Okay, a bit rough. Not great. Still don't know exactly what you have on you either, friend. Okay, so already on the back foot. What do we want to do here? We were thinking about going for a preliminary haste. Curari is definitely a solid option in my books as well. Let's let you come to us. Hello, sir. Then we need to make sure we don't waste too many turns well in sight. I think I would like to start here, 74% chance to hit. That's not too bad. I'm also going to fill the air with some clouds with condenser vein. We get flames, which is pretty solid. You don't even have like an axe or anything, friend? Are you okay? You started off being the scariest Minotaur we've ever come up against because they came out of their hiding in advance. But then it turns out that they didn't have like a fancy axe or nothing. Usually have something at your disposal, friend. I mean, I'm not complaining too much, don't get me wrong. One of the few Minotaur fights that didn't immediately throw me into a panic. But let's scoop up all these sweet, sweet resources here. +1 helmet of intelligence we'll probably grab. Can ID something to get rid of the one ID scroll, free up our space a little bit. Hopefully this helmet's looking snazzy. That's not bad. I mean, black kind of matches with everything, so that works out. So you demand a timeout and a redo. Definitely, definitely. Also, another fancy mace. Oh my gosh. Just constantly being made to regret our decisions of going polearms. But this one, besides the resistance to cold, which is decent, don't get me wrong, this isn't too much of a necessity. I guess if we want to potentially use it as a bit of a stat stick for resistances, at least for the near future here, until we get some better tools at our disposal for it, can get rid of the Ring of Poison resistance. We have the armor, we have the amulet, a few different ways we can go for our poison resistance. I think that that's fine to ditch for the time being. And that's that. Amnesia Scroll can stay behind. Already have the lightning rod. Okie dokie. That was a successful gauntlet, all things considered. Fantastic. So we still have these maces on us, which more and more every day I'm tempted to toss out for the time being. For now, let's drop the Swamp Dragon scales for some extra room. We'll also drop the Wand of Charming. Keep the digging instead. We'll have to do some more inventory management right away, I'm sure, but for now, that's looking good. Let's get going. I would definitely like to find some better armor. We don't have the best armor class right now, and we're hoping, in an ideal situation, to get hit by a bunch of enemies as much as possible, while not dying in the process, obviously. So, I'm hoping to get slightly more defensive capabilities. Though it's always interesting, I think the Powered by Pain and stuff like that might trigger, and the bleeding effect, I should say, might trigger to a greater degree as we get hit with a larger chunk of damage. But I think overall for survivability, armor class would just be real swell. Oh, what's in this corner? Is it worth breaking through the plants? I'm worried I'm gonna regret this. Oh, a Komodo. Oh, that's not that bad. A bit scary if they ever hit us. Fortunately, they didn't. But otherwise, nice. Let's see, protection from Cold Ring is fantastic. We definitely need some more resistances to be safe in the future. In fact, this is where Tropa's starting to fall off, so let's switch that out for now. Fantastic. Doggo's a bit upset out there. I'm sure a neighbor got a package delivered or something equally as horrifying as that. Equally as unacceptable. But fantastic. Now let's hop back on the road. Maybe find 4 blinking scrolls, wouldn't that be swell? Enchant weapon. Okay, that's something. While he went to the Komodo's home, he was just chilling. Yeah, after all of our talk, all the pretending to care based on how we never kill Natasha, and we're always so respectful of the different uniques. Absolutely no respect or care in the world for the poor Komodo who's just living their best life. Just trying to find a good home to settle down, you know, maybe have some little Komodos running around. We're an absolute monster. Honestly, just unforgivable, but sometimes you have to become what you hate most, I guess. At least that's what I'll lie and say to myself. Hello, friend. Let's switch over to Darts of Poison to take you out. We did leave a flame wand lying around. It's funny, I always for shoals remember that like, oh, flame wands are so good because they block line of sight and you get the steam damage. It's a win-win situation. And yet I always forget to use it in scenarios like this. Also a great way to kill electric eels. Fortunately, I had a lovely commenter on the YouTube side of things remind me of that. It was definitely a bit of a Dodoran moment. Something I should be keeping in mind a bit more in the future. Nice, we had a degen, which, I mean, isn't great. We don't want degeneration potions, but it is a free inventory slot. We're desperate for that. Or the fact the first unique you ever killed was the poor kitty and you had to kill them 3 times will forever haunt you. Yes, no, I hate to say that I was not always on the moral high ground in that scenario. Many times in the past I've killed poor Natasha, and for what? For what did this poor innocent cat deserve to die? They're just trying to find their owner? They're not hurting nobody? Well, I guess maybe that's not completely true. But they're barely hurting anybody. So sad. Does nobody realize how messed up it is? But let's see, we definitely, as mentioned, immediately need more inventory slot for, I mean, a phantom mirror, which is awesome to find early on here, so no real complaints. What do we wish to drop? Probably, I guess. Throw the enchant armors on the ground for now. We just have to remember to eventually swap out from that. We also picked up this scale mill, and I don't know why we didn't immediately put it on. I think I saw the resistance to poison. In my head, I was like, oh, we already have that. We're good. But this is lighter armor that gives more armor class than what we're currently wearing, so don't mind if I do. Looks real fancy too. A nice bronzy gold palette. We're not necessarily matching in terms of cohesive outfit all around here, but we're getting there. And some of the unique pieces are definitely looking mighty nice. Perfect, and Rue believes we're ready to make a new sacrifice. I was just thinking about that. I wonder if we missed a sacrifice. Should check the abilities screen. Perfect timing, Rue. I appreciate it. And let's see, so we can sacrifice experience, sacrifice essence again, or sacrifice artifice. So I'm going to tell you right now, I don't know if I'll ever sacrifice artifice. So artifice is in regards to evocations and evocables. I believe this makes you unable to use evocables, and you definitely can't train the skill anymore. So maybe in other people's books there's a time and place for that, time where you might take advantage of the big sacrifice, but not for me, friends. I am far too in love with evocables and use them far too often to ever give it up. I'm so sorry, Rue, not even for you. But as for these other ones, Essence will just reduce our magic points by 10%. We're not a caster, so that's the easy sacrifice to go to if we want something that's not going to be too detrimental to ourselves. Probably won't give us very much piety either, so it might take a couple extra steps to get to the next abilities and whatnot. But last of all, we have Sacrifice Experience. So I believe that sacrificing experience causes you to lose 2 levels, and your level cap becomes 25, so you permanently miss out on 2 experience levels. It's an interesting one to sacrifice. So I think that so often in this game, at least for myself, I'm not really paying too much attention to the benefits that I'm gaining from each and every level up. Like, sure, I know in some level in the back of my brain that we're getting extra health, probably getting, well, we are actually getting the extra stats as well, depending on the levels we're hitting. So all those are great, but it's so unnoticed for the most part. But I feel like that will not be quite the case with Sacrifice and Experience. Losing 2 levels at this stage in the game puts us on the back foot by a huge amount, but it's an incredible sacrifice, which makes sense. So that is pretty wild. I'm pretty sure, I'm not pretty sure, I have no idea. I wonder, since most of Rue's sacrifices scale, where if you've trained a skill before sacrificing it, you get more piety returned for sacrificing it because Rue recognizes that that investment that you've put forward. I'm curious if this gets better as you level up, because it's almost worse early on for sure. so tempting to rush max piety with Rue, right? I just want to sacrifice everything. I want that apocalypse that I've heard so much about. Might lose some mutations too. Don't know if you have them all by 25 or not for Demonspawn. That is a very interesting point for Mithru. Huh. I didn't even think about that. That not being able to reach the max level cap does potentially screw us over for mutations. That's wild. In a similar way, I'm sure with a Felid, you might lose out on some of your lives or something like that on the sacrifice. Less so in that regard, because even after you hit max level, there's an algorithm that's taking into account your experience gains and you're still able to gain cat lives. But I'm curious if that would be so with the Demonspawn. Because if you lose out on potentially one of your higher tier upgrades on your mutations, then this is really rough. Definitely a hard argument to press, but regardless for us here, it's interesting to hypothesize. I don't think that I'll rush too fast and hard for the piety bonus. Need to make sure we stay alive in the meantime. So let's sacrifice essence, lose out on some magic points. Doesn't hurt us too bad. Definitely still helps out in the long run. Fantastic. Don't get that appreciable boost in piety immediately seeing an uptick, but that is a-okay. And I'm sure we'll be happy about it in the long run. Let's drop our stones for another scroll here. Definitely starting to deal with all the usual pains of inventory management. Something that I'm constantly struggling with myself here. Let's keep reading scrolls here for our ID. Interesting. Well, definitely going pretty well so far. Can't complain too much. Can do a quick inventory check. I'm sure there's something that we could toss away that I've just been completely forgetting that we're hauling about. Got rid of our amnesia scrolls. Got rid of our brilliance potions. Oh, we picked up another brilliance potion. Or maybe I never got rid of you in the end. But yeah, let's drop you, shall we? Especially as we sacrifice more and more of our spellcasting abilities. Less and less chance we'll be using that moving forward. And okie dokie, this stairwell is an absolute nightmare and a death trap. Let's take another peek down there. So another death yak, as well as a torpor snail that will keep us slowed. We could maybe pop our head down. Hope that we only bring a death yak upstairs again, rinse repeat, but that's definitely a bit of a scary proposition, so let's just change over for now instead. As everyone keeps blinding themselves by hitting us. Fantastic, do love to see that for sure. Bring a magical power. Immediately negates the sacrifice we made, would you look at that, but probably not for us. Oh, hello, Arug. Oh, geez. Don't mind me. Please. Please don't mind me. Leave me alone. Don't want to fight Arug and a Basilisk at the same time. That doesn't sound like a great idea to me. And in general, I don't know how I feel about fighting you. Oh, and you're Berserk right now. Isn't that sweet? Extra scary. Wow. I've also, hold up. I don't know if I've ever actually read Urug's description here. Urug lost her eye in a fight with a harpy and is sworn to slay every last one of them. Unfortunately, the vision in her main eye is not very good and she's mistaken you for one. She also smells terrible. So, important piece of information. She smells terrible. Definitely always missed out on that one in the past. But I never knew that she's mistaken us for a harpy. Urug, are you okay? I know that your vision isn't great, but that's a big difference, my friend. Like the wings, the feathers, the shrill cries. None of these are tipping you off, friend? Fire clouds, the fire clouds, the self buffs, and the enemy debuffing all triggering off getting hit really pushes us into a high HP, but it's cool, they're all the same trigger, right? It's a cool little piece of synergy that we're hoping to capitalize off of at some point. The AC department is lacking at the moment for sure. Not looking great, but let's magic mirror you with a phantom mirror. Fantastic. And then, I think we will immediately resort to the Curari as well. Get some extra damage nailing down, and then we should be able to finish you off the old-fashioned way. Beautiful. Fantastic work. Nethack, where did you go? I was kind of hoping to draw just the Nethack. The Tauroper Snail also definitely works out for us.